8:13, we have an exec session for discussing personnel issues and non-legal business items. So, thank you. We'll continue with zoning officer.
Yes, good evening, everybody. As usual, I'll give you my full report at the next meeting. I don't have anything other than if you guys have any questions concerning the zoning report, I'll be happy to try and answer.
Any questions? Thank you. Roadmaster.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Evening.
At this time, we started the third round of mowing with the highway mower. Prior to starting the third round, we did see a little bit of a dripping with the mower. We had a hydraulic tank welded once before, and the same spot on the tank created a hairline crack. So we had to get that drained out, get it welded, and we have it back on the road again. We did the ditch for the police chief's sign out there. That's a beautiful looking sign. And Mr. Texter did some nice flower arrangement of a tree around it. I think that looks beautiful.
Were you able to level the light pole?
Beside it?
Yeah.
Nah, we'll wait till it falls.
Leaning.
Tyler Victor did look at that because that's where we were thinking of drawing the electricity from. It's not in good shape. So I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Don't let it fall on the sign.
No, it's actually the other way, so we're fine on that.
Okay.
We had Premier Tree Service into the township a couple of weeks ago. There was a tree that blew over on Black Horse Road. The tree was not in the right of way, but the tree was leaning over the road, and the tree was a monster. There was no way my crew was even going to be able to touch that thing. We had Premier come out. It took him 2.5 hours to get this tree down because it was tangled in another tree, and they were very cautious on how they were bringing it down piece by piece, so nothing else damaging-wise occurred. We were out multiple times for the flooding and trees falling. I mean, everything's soaking wet. We had a tree fall back on Buzzard Road a day after it rained. And it really wasn't windy. It's just the ground is that wet, and this tree had a lean to it. It just took it down. That one there took out 4 other trees with it. It did a domino effect. I had 2 trees fall on one side, they hit the 2 on the other side, and they sort of fell back towards the road again. So that was one morning project that we were at. The Fishing Creek Park got hit pretty hard with the flooding. We cleaned it up the first storm we had, got all the stones out of the grass, reseeded it, only to have it get hammered this last time. So, and plus we have somebody that's deciding that they're going to run their 4-wheels all over the property down there. It's a small 4-wheel drive vehicle, looking at the tires, and they're out there just running it all up. So I'm just going to let it go for this year, because there's no use in fixing it up. New Enterprise was in with Road Mill. They completed the widening of both Indiandale and Buzzard Roads, and they sealed the joints this week. So we should be getting a bill for them for that. We started the pipe replacement immediately after those 2 companies were done. We completed the 2 pipes on Indiandale Road, so we have 6 more pipes to replace on Buzzard to get all the pipes in place. Stewart and Tate showed up last week. They completed their work today. I think they did an exceptional job. It's a new crew. There was the only one that I am familiar with was actually the foreman. I saw that foreman 2 years ago, but he still has some of the other foreman's employees or crew on with him. And I think he sort of routed the chains and got his own crew in now, and they did an excellent job on the roads. Alpha Space Control is scheduled for next week, hopefully, to come and start painting the long lines. I didn't get a time frame on when the short line crew will be in the paint. Did a whole bunch of one-calls for East Cocalico Heights. UGI actually has the concrete crew coming in to redo all the aprons that were damaged in development. So that will be taking place next week. second pipe. We were blacktopping our second pipe last Friday, and our roller took a crap on us. There's a shaft on the roller's engine that powers to the steering of the roller. And we actually got caught in the rain. That rain started a little earlier than it was expected to, and we had a heck of a time trying to get the roller lined up because we couldn't steer it, except for maybe, in probably 10 foot, you could get it a mere 2 inches. So until we got this roller onto the trailer, that was a fiasco, and we were all drenched. We had it apart, we had the roller fixed, and we're ready to start blacktopping the roads again. We posted no truck signs from the ordinance you passed. And for the ones that we didn't post yet, we did the one post. There's quite a few areas there where I don't trust driving a stake into the ground. I mean, where we did post them is farm country. Pretty sure there's no underground utilities out there. So we had those already up. We're waiting till Monday to go after the rest of them and put the rest of them up. I did receive an email Wednesday morning from Hundred. They received a small dump truck. So I had to get some stuff together with Liz, and Liz had to send them paperwork. And once the paperwork's received at Hundred, they will ship the dump truck down to EM Cooks to have that fabricated. And that's all I have.
Any questions of Chris?
Yes, Chris, one of the first days of school, we had, I guess overnight, a lot of flooding back here, White Oak Road and such. We had barricades up on the road there. The water had receded, and I heard there were school buses going every which way, thinking that the road was still closed when the water was totally gone. Were you monitoring that, or one of the guys? This was like after 7 a.m. in the morning.
Actually, the first day of school is when what? Stuart, I think might have been.
Well, the barricades were up back here.
Where
The creek had flooded,
Okay.
crossed over
Well,
Dogwood.
basically,
White
if the
Oak.
roads are flooded, we're gonna post the signs, we're not gonna
Right.
sit there and wait for them to go down.
Right.
So at 7 o'clock in the morning, basically, everybody went back out and started going over the roads that we didn't have all the signs up, not until they got to them.
It might have been a little later till they got back here, but
Yes,
yes, I had reports there.
because
The school buses were doing circles trying to figure out.
they really did. I fielded 3 phone calls during the night from county dispatch. They called me to say the officer reported these 3 roads flooded. 10 minutes later, I get another call, the officer reported these 3 roads are flooded. The third time she called, I said, please don't tell me any more roads are flooded. I got all my signs, all my cones on the trucks, and they're out. I said, unless it's a tree down or my road bubbled or there's a house in the middle of my road, I said, we're out there closing all the roads that we can.
Yeah.
To which she said, okay. She was happy, but until we got around to getting all the signs of barricades down, it was probably, school was probably starting.
Yeah.
But I also did receive from Mr. Lutz, the transportation at Cocalico, the oil and chip guys used for close signs. They didn't use work ahead, which I didn't notice the sign at first, but when Mr. Lutz called me, I said, hey, the road's open to the buses. He's putting these signs up to try and keep everyday drivers from going on the roads for them to do their work.
Well, I suspected it was flooding the night before, and then the water came down quick, I guess, overnight.
It's all on how it was. I mean, the one with the township's layout, half of my township could flood and the other half don't. But you still have to check it just in case.
Oh, it was flooded back here. You didn't want
Everybody
to.
looking for rain, it was still flooded.
Yeah.
Chris, the bill for the Premier Tree Service, is that getting passed on to the landowner?
I don't know. I don't know how they want to work that.
Who do you have to ask for that?
I don't know. Who'd ask?
You have to talk to me.
Okay. How's the bill getting passed on?
I will talk to him. And he has to talk to me, so we will talk. Gotta know more about what, with it being in the right of way outside of the right of way.
I didn't-
Did you take pictures?
I think there were a few pictures snapped. Not by my phone, but by one of the other guys.
Okay. We run into the same thing too, so.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chris.
List of bills, authorized list of bills.
Okay, you've got a list of bills as follows. You have a total general fund of $32,373.75 and a total state fund of $1,013.99. Questions?
I want to disregard the bill from Aqueduct for $2,277. I want to investigate that further, so pull that off, please. Other questions or comments?
What was with the pool cover there?
It got ripped. So
Like
that
a rubber patch, tire patches on it or something?
No, you can't. No, that cover has to hold over 250 pounds on it. So somebody can walk across the pool with it's on and not fall in. So you have to send away and get it done there by correctly. So that's why.
They balkanize it or something.
No, they sew it.
So,
They stitch it.
just put
Yeah, it
patches.
is. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion to pay the bill that presented.
And I'll second that.
Any questions or comments?
With the idea that we take off the one from Aqueduct for the starter pump.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those no? No. Okay, motion carried, thank you. Univest Bank Investment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a follow-up to your last meeting's approval. These are two motions that are requested by Univest Bank for moving the $2.5 million into the money market account as we discussed previously. So I'll read the first motion and the second motion. The first motion is to approve that after the National Bank funds totaling $2.5 million to be invested with Univest Bank and Trust Company at a rate of 2% for the following money market accounts. General Fund Money Market Account, $1 million. Pool Money Market Account, $163,000. Recreation Fund Money Market Account, $219,000. Capital Reserve Fund Money Market Account, $503,000. Retirement Money Market Account, $86,000. Traffic Impact Fee Money Market Account, $529,000.
I'll make that motion for a second.
I will second same.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those no, motion carried. Thank you.
The second is to establish our basically contact for these funds, and that would be Ms. Elizabeth Dorman. And the motion is to authorize Elizabeth Dorman, East Cocalico Township Financial Minister, as designated user with Univest Bank and Trust Company, to perform the following items: access internet banking with Univest for all investment money market accounts, electronic payment including archival entries, fund transfers, wire transfers, phone inquiries, issue stop payments, and overall account access to resolve any issues.
I would make that motion.
Go to second.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those no, motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Land planning.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm glad I pretend to be front of you again today. You have two routine approvals, both for stormwater management plans, one for a minor plan. The first plan is for Nicholas and Jill Eames-Durford. I probably butchered that name. And that's for construction of a 32 by 50-foot detached accessory garage and some expanded parking. It's a routine stormwater approval, and there's 5 motions that go along with it. And I can read those motions to you.
Yes, please.
Okay, the first motion is to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the stormwater maintenance easement agreement related to Nicholas and Jill Beamers-Durford stormwater management plan at 5 Pin Oak Drive, as prepared by the Township Solicitor and signed by the applicant.
Anybody here representing that plan?
I'd make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Those no, motion carried. Thank you.
Second motion is to approve the stormwater management plan at 5 Pin Oak Drive as authorized signature by the Board of Supervisors.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Third motion is authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign an improvement guarantee agreement with the company Financial Security in the amount of $12,301.85 for Nicholas and Jill Beamsdorfer Stormwater Management Plan at 5 Pin Oak Drive and prepared by the Township Solicitor and signed by the applicant.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next motion is to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign a stormwater maintenance and easement agreement related to Nicholas and Jill Beamsdorfer Stormwater Management Plan at 5 Pin Oak Drive as prepared by the Township Solicitor and signed by the applicant.
I'll make that motion. Second.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And the final motion is to authorize signature of the Nicholas and Jill Beamsdorfer Stormwater Management Plan at 5 Pin Oak Drive by the Board of Supervisors.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next one is the Paul and Elaine High minor stormwater management plan. This is a minor plan. It basically involves the removal and reconstruction of a single-family dwelling and associated driveway with a turnaround. And the motion is to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign a stormwater maintenance and easement agreement related to the Paul and Elaine High minor stormwater management plan at 263 South Williamstown Road as prepared by the Township Solicitor and signed by the applicant.
Is anybody here representing this claim? Okay. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Stony Point Park Consulting Proposal.
Give me a quick chance here to flip here. What you have before you is, as I announced in the previous meeting, after the last couple months, the executive working group of Stony Point Park Community Build had interviewed two community build consultants, and in July had selected Leathers and Associates, and as the consultant they wanted to do work with. It was a qualification-based selection. Leathers Associates then sent a proposal to the working group, and the working group reviewed the proposal, and that's what you have before you. They did do a vote via email. It was a unanimous vote to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that you adopt this proposal and accept Leathers and Associates as the consultant for the community build for Stony Point Park. When I did do the review, the budget number that we had been working with for design and consulting was $35,000, and they did come in under budget at $29,750. So they're in line with what we were expecting that we would see for this project. So it is at the request of the executive working group that the Board of Supervisors execute this agreement with Leathers and Associates, and that the project will now formally begin.
So the motion be approved, Leathers proposal as a Stony Point Park consultant for the price of $29,750.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. Any comments or questions?
Is that money coming from the rec fund?
That's correct. It's budget during.
Any other questions?
And we're still in under.
They have set this up as a $400,000 project. 75 is what the township's committed, up to $100,000. The rest of it comes from grants and donations.
And if they wouldn't get the grant, then
They get the project.
scale back.
So the budget's still, we're still under that budgeted amount, so.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Pension agreement with Univest Municipal Pension Services.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we announced this at the last meeting that we would have, the agreement was under review by our solicitor. That had been reviewed by everybody else, and there was really no comments from everybody else. Our solicitor had 3 comments, all which I think were minor in nature, and as you see in the handout that was presented to you, the portion that read was Univest addressing the one solicitor comment. The other two that they commented with, our solicitor commented with, I kind of felt was a redundant comment because of a statement that they have under Section 4, Paragraph B, about omissions and errors by the Univest. I think that blanket statement overall covers the township very well. As I said to you guys when and we mentioned at the last meeting, what makes this, I think, a very good agreement is its simplicity and the fact that there is basically a 30-day in-writing exit clause with no clause given that we can separate ourselves from Univest if we're not satisfied with the service, which is something we currently do not have a principle.
Yeah, with no penalties.
No penalties, no clause, it's just a 30-day written notice. When you get something like that, that is obviously an organization that stands behind their work. So I feel very comfortable with this agreement, and I'm going to encourage you to authorize its execution so that we can begin the transfer process of the monies from principal to Univest.
The motion be to approve the pension agreement with Univest Municipal Pension Services and to authorize the manager to execute the documents as the trustee.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
I have a quick question. Does that include the 457 funds that we talked about?
That's something that's still open for discussion.
Any other questions or? Yes?
Yeah, perhaps we need to update where this current pension fund is, what money's going to be able to get moved, what isn't. You had talked previously about hiring that intermediary to try and work on that. What's the update on all this?
Everything that I talked about last time starts when this agreement gets executed. So we don't have the options yet about the different options for basically either breaking an agreement or working with principal within the benefit index versus the non-benefit index funds.
You have to have some place to go with it before you.
Right, so this starts that whole process that I briefed the last couple of meetings ago.
So any future deposits into it will be going to the Univest, and there's nothing more going to.
Right. And we'd be using the actuary to kind of second check the assumptions that went into the creation of the benefit index and look at the different options with the benefit index, whether we do a buyout in a way with the police officers, retirees, and basically they stay as principal and the rest of the funds go into this new one, or whether we work within a renegotiated benefit index.
In accordance with the police contract, I guess they have to agree with that as well. Is that your understanding, Mr. Kepley? Or?
I don't believe so.
No.
I think that's a decision by the board.
Because the township's the obligation on it.
Yeah, just for the general public's understanding, it's a little counterintuitive that we passed the motion. It sounds like it's over, it's complete, it's finished. By actually passing this motion, the work really begins. There was a lot of work over the last 9 months of evaluating those pensions, evaluating the pension, evaluating all the RFPs that came in. But it's counterintuitive. It sounds like, okay, now everything's done and it's wrapped up, but now the work really begins.
It just starts now.
It just starts, right. Okay?
And our goal is our next payment's in October, so our goal is to have the framework in place for the next payment to go into the Univest account and not to the principal.
Normally by September, the MMO amount for next year is announced. Has there been any update on that?
We will more than likely have it by our second September meeting. That's typically when we have the meeting.
And it's still not a final.
No.
As in the past, you get an update usually in December.
Yeah, in December.
We're still running with a forecasted MMO, not an actual.
Right.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Old business, learning plans, policies, and procedures.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I might turn that over to Mr. Mitchell in a minute, but the school district did have the meeting, and he sat in on meeting while they discussed the white paper that you had previously discussed 2 weeks prior. And I guess they also put an article in the paper, so they came across as very favorable in the paper. But it was, it sounded like very well received, and we're actually at the next stage now, just starting to put things together and see what will stick at this point with everybody. But we do have at least a very general framework to work with to start putting documents together.
They asked me to stop in for informational purposes. They had a workshop meeting there, and about a half hour, there was various questions back and forth. I talked to them about the whole township-wide LRTA. There was actually 2 board members that were very enthusiastic about that. I relayed to them that perhaps at this time, everybody seems a little cautious as far as the Board of Supervisors and some of the other school board members. Let the thing get, the LRTA get in place, and there would be a reevaluation in a year or 2 to decide if changes needed to be made. And that was fine with them. There was one board member that had some concerns about traffic, what's going to be done for traffic in the future, and I think she resides in the township. So I relayed to the board there about what Scott had said about we have considerable traffic plans already in place, studies are done. We know what needs to be done at different processes as far as when a building comes along. And, that seemed to satisfy their concerns there. I know Scott had talked in the past about the divergent diamond out by the turnpike entrance there at that intersection. And, a possible traffic circle at Muddy Creek and 272. There was some discussion along those lines as well. But the superintendent asked the board if there was, any concerns with the proposal as put out, and everybody was in agreement that that's a good way to proceed. I think just from what Scott had said, perhaps the next step is actually putting the details into the legal framework. But there again, I guess the board has to look at the framework as presented and decide, is that the way you want to proceed, or should there be changes made?
Jeff, what do you see as the next step then, that you need?
Well, I guess it's a matter of putting the legal framework together, the details that have been discussed and are in the outline, and actually putting legal language to it to be advertised and moved forward with.
Well,
But, the school boards, they're unanimously in favor of the outline that's put forward. I guess it comes down to the board here, is that the way you want to proceed?
well, right, that's exactly why I'm asking that, because putting the legal language in place, let's back up one step and says, I think we definitively have to decide as a board, based on the conceptual outline that you have now for LRTA, are we on board with the conceptual outline and the proposal you're coming back to us with?
Well, what is a conceptual? I haven't seen anything.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not gonna vote on something until I get to read it and see.
No, agreed, and that's,
The
so,
next step,
Right,
let's
so-
look at it.
that's why I'm saying now, what I'd like to see now is an actual conceptual outline of what it's going to look like, in terms of your proposal.
Is there anything different than the working sheet we've been working off of, Scott?
I'll be honest with you, I'll give you, that was what was in our last meeting, it hasn't really,
So nothing's changed
nothing's
from
really
the
changed
last
from what
time.
that's what the school district talked about too, was exactly from this point forward.
I think you had that at a previous meeting.
Yes, we did, but that's what I'm asking, so nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
And I was only concerned because you just made a comment that when you talked to the school, you said in a year or 2, we would reevaluate that. I don't remember us ever saying that.
Well, in our working group, it was a joint decision in the group that we would reevaluate once once the law was in place, whether there was a few applications to see, how the assessment played out on the applications that are put forward. It's just a matter of looking at it. Obviously, the Board of Supervisors has to approve any changes and the initial implementation of it. So, it's an idea of keeping the work in process going.
Well, and I understand.
What the school district wanted to do is they wanted to have this having an expiration date, so that everybody would have to look at it again. So what they were asking for was a 3-year window. You guys would adopt it for 3 years. And a lot of the municipalities have adopted, or almost all of them have a date, a window. Then you have to go back to the board and either renew it, change it, or let it expire. But that was what that was in there.
Well, I know I get tagged as a naysayer, that's just fine. But I've read a lot of them, and I have yet to see one with a date. I read the city of Erie, I read the city of Lancaster, I read the borough of Mount. None of them have dates of expiration.
There are some.
Well, you say, some, but and it's been said in public meeting that, and I just gotta make these corrections, because it just drives me nuts. Been said in a public meeting by Jeff Mitchell that the whole city of Lancaster is learning, yes or no?
It's not the whole city.
That's correct, it is not the whole city.
It's the majority of the city.
It's not even the majority of the city, you look at a map, it's not the majority. So you're creating this image that, I know you're proposing that we do this township-wide. The only townships that have this, and speak of residential, it's not for residential houses, it's for condos, it's for establishments like, I'm going to use Stafford Village as an example, where they have a business down below and living quarters up above. It's all related to businesses, commercial, or industrial. It has not one thing to do with assessments, and it has not one thing to do with being in a residential area. Because you mentioned the fact that we could do something like propose a LERTA for someone that their assessment increases by $25,000. And I made the comment at the last minute, LERTA and assessments, they should not be tied together. That's just my feeling, and I won't change from that. Whether I'm wrong or right, I won't change from it, because when you read all the ones in the newspapers and you go online and look, and there's hundreds of them, and you sit down and you take the time to read. I spent 2 hours yesterday reading a whole pile of them. And when they talk about residential, it's not as you and I think of residential. It's not like Tony building a house and he gets to apply for a LERTA. That has nothing to do with it. So, I just want to make the comment that Lancaster City is not entirely in LERTA. It's not entirely in LERTA.
That's correct.
Okay.
I stand to be corrected.
That's fine. I'm not here, I'm just pointing out.
No, you're right on that.
And, there was a lot of people in this room that were against LERTA, and now all of a sudden they're for it. I don't know what changed. I just don't know what changed. They fought UGI tooth and nail. I'm glad UGI is here. I'm glad this board saw fit to bring UGI into East Cocalico Township and to do it through LERTA and give them a break, because they spent an enormous amount of money to put that driveway in and do other things, run the electric there and everything else, that they weren't really counting on. We can all sit back after the fact and say, well, they should have done their due diligence, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, they're going to bring 300 jobs to this township. Not new jobs, just jobs. Up to 300, I'll stand corrected. I think LERTA has to do with increasing jobs, period. I think a LERTA zone should be one that commercial, industrial, something like that, where someone's gonna retrofit a building, and even if it's 5 jobs, they're gonna bring them in. It should have nothing to do with you spend $25,000, or pick a number, $50,000 to add to your property, we're gonna give it a alert. It doesn't create jobs. The only guy that gets a job is the guy doing the work, and he's gone. So it's gonna create a tax base for this township. It doesn't cause extra work for these guys in his department, where residential does. So that's my 5 minutes, I'm done. Sorry.
Well, and to that point, the framework that's there is just in the commercial and light industrial zoning. That's the proposal that is in front of you now. And, you know, I think everybody was comfortable moving ahead with that. And, you know, when you look at some of the budgeting numbers that came out from Derek's with the police force, you know, I think there's a little bit more of an urgency now than what there was in the past to try and increase the tax base. And when you look at the dozen or so properties along 272 with for sale signs on them, you know, what's happening on most of them? Nothing. So some kind of incentive would help it would have to get a few of them moving.
Correct.
And, you know, that's just going to help us with expanding the tax base, and that's really the goal here. You know, any way that you can get it done.
Correct.
The assessment number, once again, is there for uniformity. It takes the ball out of your hands and lets the county assessment office handle it. You know, they're the experts on what property value is. And, you know, that $25,000 number is used in a lot of municipalities to validate whether it's in or whether it's out. Now, you know, you could argue a different number needs to be used. That's fine. But, you know, if the goal is to increase the tax base, you know, why quibble over a few dollars? $25,000 increases the tax base. It gives you more dollars to work with.
And I don't disagree with everything you said. I will, you know, we have a fundamental difference on that. That's neither here nor there. I don't like putting those decisions because the 3 of us were elected by you people and everyone else in the township. We don't elect, we don't appoint anybody in Lancaster County in the assessment office. I wouldn't know those people if they walked through the door. We have to make those hard decisions here for the betterment of our community. I don't want someone in Lancaster County telling me what we should be doing out here. That's not their job. Their job is to come out, reassess property, do it the best of their ability. I don't agree with the reassessment, but at the end of the day, would I sell my property for what it's assessed? No. Being honest, and I think everybody in this room would be honest, we're not assessed the way we should. It should be 100% assessment. You should be paying, because you wouldn't sell your property. Most of us wouldn't sell your property for what your tax assessment is. You just wouldn't do it. So it's as fair as they can get. But the UGI decision, that was this board decision. And I'm not afraid to make those decisions. That's what the people elected me for. They elected Alan and they elected Romeo to make those decisions. Some people don't like it, but they elected us. And we're doing the best we can. And I think those decisions have to rest with us, not with the assessment office of Lancaster County. I'm sorry.
I think what I'm hearing is a couple of different things.
No, you're not. You're hearing one thing from me.
No, I think we need to take, in my opinion, we need to take a step back. We need to fundamentally ask ourselves the following question. Is LRTA a benefit to East Cocalico? Period. You have to first answer that question, decide fundamentally whether it's a benefit. I don't see LRTA as just creating jobs, Doug. I see LRTA as the catalyst that we need to help us us with some of the challenges that are coming down the road on the revenue side of things. I also see LERTA as an intricate part of the solution to help us with these challenges that are coming. We just had a focus group with businesses. I'd like to know what the results were of the LERTA, if there was even any discussion on LERTA in that focus group. What was the impression of the businesses? What has been causing the 272 corridor, quite frankly, to stagnate for as long as it has? Because as it continues to stagnate, the economic cycle that we're in is not going to last forever. And the financial challenges that we have coming are still going to be there. So I see LERTA as the catalyst to helping us in many of these areas.
And I don't disagree with you at all. I think LERTA, I said I was in favor, as were most of us, for bringing UGI in here. And they wouldn't have come if they wouldn't have got LERTA.
Okay.
They wouldn't have come. So, in that instance.
And that's fine. So here's the next question then, right? So what I'm hearing you say is you don't want to attach, which was part of the proposal, and that's fine. Let's mediate the proposal. So we don't attach a $25,000 number to it. Let's not attach any number
Just
to it.
let it be the way, LERTA
Alert is alert.
Alert is
Anybody
alert.
who wants to step in, come in.
Look on the state, look what the state definition of LERTA is. Has nothing to do with assessment. Has nothing to do with attaching a number that you're gonna raise the property value by. Has nothing.
And I'm interested, Jeff, you're saying no, and I'm
Well,
interested.
when you start dropping down much below that number, the tax dollars become more
But-
inconsequential.
But let the business owner and the landowner make that decision
That's right.
themselves.
That's their
Why
decision.
do we need to make that?
Right, that's our decision.
Well, then what's the qualifier going to be?
The qualifier is gonna be, as I see it, an area where you try and attract business to, like the 272 corridor. You make that as an example, because we're not voting on anything, as an example, you make the 272 corridor, the business, not residential, business, commercial, industrial corridor, you make that an LERTA zone. Those people know they're gonna get, the first year, they're not gonna pay any additional tax. The second year, 10 years the maximum you can do it. That's by law, not my law, not your law, not the county law, that's a state law. 10 years is max. You can do anything less than that, but you can only do it for 10 years. Sliding scale. So, it's 10% every year if you do 10%, or 10 years. So at the end of 10 years, they're gonna be paying 100% of what they should based on their new assessment. The first year, they won't pay any extra. The second year, they'll only pay, it keeps going up and down. To me, the LERTA is a way to draw businesses, as you indicated, to this area. You don't have the LERTA, the place is stagnated right now, but the economy, up until about 2 years ago, was in the bucket. We all know that.
Prior to that, the economy, there was cycles in the economy that it was doing very well, and the corridor is still stagnant.
Well, there wasn't a lot for sale back in 2008, 2010. It just wasn't. It's just come up the last couple of years. That's going to happen. And you can't make people buy something to build something. They've got to want to do it. There's got to be a need here. Obviously, somebody saw a need to put the new True Denver Hotel up, so it's here. So there was a
You
need.
can offer incentives.
And
that's the whole
the
point of
incentive
it.
is LERTA.
I mean, incentives are. So
what's the consensus to get rid of number 3?
So what you're hearing from me is, I'm in agreement with the proposal as it is. If Doug wants to remove that, I can support that to go ahead and remove that, because my primary concern has been what it always has been, and I'm going to repeat it again. There needs to be a sense of urgency to get this done, considering what's coming.
Right.
So I'd like to see this proposal and a plan in place and something up and running, like I said. I'd love to say last week, but of course, before the end of the year.
What's going to be the process then? You know, with the proposal that's in front of you, if it goes to the assessment board, Tony hands out an application with the building permit, the applicant fills it out, and it's out of your hands, it goes to the assessment office. They make the determination based on whatever the increase in assessment is. So how do you propose going forward with it otherwise?
Well, now you're talking, now you're asking how do we tactically put the procedures in place, right?
Yeah.
And I would be speaking extremely unethically if I said I knew the answer to that. I don't. I've never done that before, okay? This is where I would ask the committee to find out how is Lancaster doing it, how are some other municipalities doing it, and let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just mirror whatever it is that they're doing.
Well, the assessment number is the level playing field. Every property in the township, county, state has an assessed value. So that's why all the other municipalities use that, because it's the level playing field to work off of. Now, you decide what number you put to that to make someone qualify. That's where the municipalities look at this and say, well, here's where we think that number, where the tax saving of the applicant comes in, where it's beneficial to the applicant, justifies the municipal officials taking time to do it. You know, a lot of times a $25,000 assessment will be like a $2,500 tax savings.
Well,
Just ballpark. That varies on all the municipalities, but you know, that's somewhat in the ballpark of where those numbers are.
so why not take it away from the assessed value? Why not propose it in terms of let's propose it in terms of the percentage of the value of the project?
Who's going to do that work?
Do yourself a favor, you all have computers. Do yourself a favor tonight when you go home, it'll take you 5 minutes. MountJoyborough.com/learn. They have an application form. It's so simple, it ain't rocket science. We're not reinventing the wheel here, as Romeo said. It's very simple. The applicant fills it out, and it goes away. It goes to Lancaster. There's nothing mentioned about, the thing that drives me nuts on this is the $25,000. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Again, this is not for residential property. This is only for commercial. You can't do anything in a commercial area for $25,000, excuse my French. You can't do it. Not with today's regulations on just the groundwater.
Well, when you say it's to Lancaster, who in Lancaster gets that?
I'm gonna sit here and act dumb because I read it, but I don't remember. But it goes to the Lancaster, I think it goes to the assessment officer, and then the borough, it's a real well-written LERTA. I mean, it's very, very thorough. And they actually have properties listed by address, tax codes.
Every one of them, yeah.
Tax codes. And you gotta remember, we're talking a borough versus a township. So boroughs typically have old buildings. Denver has a bunch. The Weave Corporation is a good example. Sat there for years and years. It's sitting empty. Somebody wants to do something with it. It has an address. It's not considered brownfield, but those are the type things they put. That Mount Joy did. They put that address for like in a Weave Corporation. That one qualifies for LERTA. You tend to see that more often in a borough because they have defined limits, where a township is sprawling. It has Reamstown, it has Swartzville, it has Reinholds, or not Reinholds, Stevens. You know, you don't have the big conglomerates, and all the industry is located along the main thoroughfare.
Yeah, there's like 6 or 7 pages.
Yeah, there's a pile of pages, you're right. There are.
Do you think that should be the way it's looked at here?
No, I don't. I I said, I think the Lerda zone, I feel the Lerda zone should be directed towards the industrial corridor that is commercial, industrial, that's where it should be. That's a Lerda zone, and you don't have to go through all this $25,000 thing. UGI didn't have to do it. They bought the land, it had an assessed value on it, now they're putting this humongous building on it. Guess what? Their assessment's gonna go up.
But it's the assessment office that's going to wind up with it.
Yeah, and we should, I'm not smart enough to figure that out, nor do I want to be. That's why those people have those jobs.
Seems like we're going around in a circle.
No, we're not. I think you let them do their job. This board was appointed to make those hard decisions, and we did. And most people think it's great, there's a handful that don't, but that's how it is. Sorry.
So to summarize, because I think you need direction from
I
us.
think I have no problem with this as proposal as long as you eliminate number 3, and that's my vote. That's my motion.
I can support that. I want to get this moving.
Yeah, I do too, and we're losing money.
I just want to know which way I gotta go so I can start preparing the documents, so.
I make a motion that this alert advisory group, that has given us this piece of paper, it's a side and a half, that I am in favor of everything except number 3. We eliminate number 3 as stated in there, and everything else can stay.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
So someone goes through the whole process, a minimal assessment increase, and they're gonna, under this idea, they're gonna get $100 assessment increase, they're gonna get.
Jeff, now you're being ridiculous.
Well, no, but there's no
now be
number.
real about numbers. Now, I've said it's commercial and industrial zone. Nobody is gonna have a $100 assessment increase, and you know that. You're not a dumb person.
Anything's possible.
No, I'm sorry, I disagree.
All right.
I disagree with you.
Let's start with that one. Let's
Yeah,
start with
got
that.
3 years.
Yeah.
That's part of the other thing, every 3 years, they're setting it back,
Yep.
so,
Okay.
So can I talk next steps real quick?
yes.
Yes.
Now that you guys have done that, what I will do is I will engage, Robert talked to the number 2 about the ordinances, I want number 2 to help with the writing of the ordinance, and I want Tom Goodman involved. So
Yes.
that would be the next step for doing that. We will use the UGI as the framework, we will incorporate these concepts into that, based off using the UGI documents. We'll look at what Mount Joy and some of the others have for application processes, and then we'll call a working group back together with the school district, run both those things through. Then what will happen is those documents will probably get refined, and then they will go back to both boards for the first round of formal comment. So that would be how I envision this next process moving.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Did you vote?
Did you vote?
Okay.
Motion and second. Yeah, we got a motion and a second. We started voting and Jeff.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Traffic safety intersection of Muddy Creek and 272.
That's no movement from the last time. I'm starting to try to set a meeting with John Schickson and Robert Thomas.
Okay. EMS working group update.
I will have an update at our next meeting. There's some meetings that are going to occur that will give us something to talk about at our next meeting.
Okay. Stony Point sidewalk waiver.
We're waiting on landmarks at this point to actually get us the identification here. They want to come to us.
Beautification strategy for East Cocalico Township.
Yes, what I'd like to do with this is I'd like to see some of those results from that focus group of the businesses. What I want to do is then see what some of those results are and then wrap that into these ideas here. One of the things I'd like to ask the board to do formally at this point is I've been doing a lot of this on my own in the background, and what I'd like to do is get permission from the board if it's okay to start getting some other people involved, such as Tony or some other people on the staff in terms of getting some ideas. on beautification, the need for it. Are we doing it? What do they think?
Let's talk about that. I don't want to make those decisions right now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Katie, woody waste to prevent illegal dumping proposal.
We have a proposal before us. What we talked about at the last meeting was that that would be a 2019 budget item, but that we would try to incorporate that in the newsletter and actually have it go live at the beginning of 2019. So that means we would be getting someone under contract in November for doing December work to get the team in place, get the newsletter information out. What I need from the board right now is just two answers to two open questions right now that I presented at the last meeting. The first one was moving the cardboard container inside the gate. In fact, I'll read my exactly what I said to you last meeting. Right now, the cardboard recycling container is moved back inside the woody waste area. Do we leave it there and have resident businesses access it using gate cards, or do we move it back to where it was last July along the service road? My feeling is to leave inside the gate area to control access. For those who do not have a card, they can recycle their cardboard curbside. This will help better control the illegal dumping that is occurring with that container. About 30% of the waste in the cardboard container right now is not cardboard. It's whatever people feel like throwing in it. A number of businesses do use the cardboard container. So then that goes into the second question, which is, do we allow businesses to participate in this program on a negotiated rate? They'd have to come to the township, acquire a card, and would have to show what their usage is, or maybe it could be a per use or some other means, or it could even be they come to get the card to access the gate to dump cardboard, or something like that. Are we going to allow businesses to utilize this service in some way, shape, or form once we gain it, or is it purely going to be for residents only? And if it is businesses, it would be something that we control at the front window. It wouldn't be something that would, there'd have to be a meeting, a discussion of some sort, whether it's they're only allowed to use the cardboard, whether they're allowed to use their own clippings. It would not be opening it up to commercial landscapers or people that do landscaping in the township and using that as a place to dispose of it. It'd be somebody who's, for his own small business, is trimming bushes or something like that, looking just like a resident.
It's supposed to be for woody waste.
Right, that's what's happening.
See, there's grass and trimmings, and that's not supposed to be there.
Well, I meant, yes, I was, trimming a bush is a bad example, but trimming trees is not.
That's correct.
Good question.
Well, I think since this is something new, I think maybe we ought to walk before we start running. I'd say we, first of all, my feeling is move the cardboard dumpster back in so you have control. I don't like sofas sitting out there all the time either. And the second thing would be to, just for residential for starters. That's me. That's how I feel about it.
Now,
I'm not against business, but they have better means of getting rid of their stuff.
now let me just ask one more question along this line. Once again, I'm ambivalent right now with what you guys decide. So, but if you do residents only, are you going to provide the option for somebody to get a card to dump cardboard if they're a business? Because there are a number of businesses that do dump
There
cardboard.
are small businesses.
But basically what I would picture is they would come in, pick the card from the window, go use it, drop the card back off at the window.
Oh, okay.
Would that be something that we could open up to
Because
businesses for
then,
cardboard?
there's actually better control by doing it that way for the cardboard.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
Yeah.
and I'll rescind my second comment.
Well, no, you could limit the businesses to just cardboard only, and it'd be basically they pick cards up at the window, and then we can reevaluate and see really if there is a demand from businesses or not. Because that's a hypothetical, because most of the businesses hire landscapers to do their work anyway. And the landscapers would not be in a position to dump the material.